This is Anchor Your Retirement with Barb Gulin from Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Barb Gulin provides her clients and prospects the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful strategies to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now here is Anchor Your Retirement with Barb Gulin.
Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barb Gulin, and I'd like to introduce to you my co-host for today, Tony Shore.
Yeah, Barb, thanks for having me on your show. I'm excited about this.
Me too.
This is the inaugural episode of Anchor Your Retirement.
Number 1.
Yeah, but we're going to be back each week, and Barb, you're going to give us a lot of great financial tips, strategies to use for sound financial investing and retirement income. I know that's a big part of what you do, helping people provide retirement income.
I have so many things I want to talk about, everything from taxes to Roth IRAs, life insurance. What do you do with your 401k, or for those of you who are federal employees, your thrift savings plan when you're getting ready to retire, when you reach 59 and a half. Understanding we work with a lot of federal employees, although that isn't our exclusive market. We do have a lot of them that we are honored to call clients, and understanding how their federal benefits work and coordinating with them instead of working in opposition to them, so that federal employees get the best bang for their buck in maximizing their benefits and creating that successful retirement, however they frame it. We like working with women. We have a lot of clients who are widowed, single, by circumstance or by choice. They are a market that they actually can end up being the most financially at risk and financially insecure moving into retirement.
I bet part of that is because women typically outlive men. That's got to be part of it.
Not only is it because they outlive men, but most of the time it's women that stay home to raise the kids when they're young. And
Yes.
Einstein's eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. So when a woman in her late 20s and early 30s steps out of the workforce to raise the next generation, she's missing out on those years of putting money into her retirement plan and utilizing that compound interest to increase the growth in that. I mean, how many times do we see the graphic that if you put away $2,000 a year from the time you're 18 to 28 and never do it again versus the person that starts when they're 30 or 35, they will never catch up because of the compound interest. So, there are a lot of reasons why women can be more financially insecure in retirement, but there's also ways to manage that and to reduce that risk.
Well, yeah, Barb, I think you're spot on, and I know that women have a lot more to overcome when it comes to retirement income and saving money, from the workplace to salaries to the things that you mentioned. Missing out on those working years where they could be socking money away. That's huge, isn't it?
It is. And more often than not, when we end up with a sick parent or a sick relative, the majority of the time, the unpaid caregiver is a woman. Yeah. It's a daughter. It's a sister. Again, they're foregoing that income and foregoing being in the workforce, contributing to Social Security. Jury's out on how secure Social Security really is.
Sure.
But for now, we plan on it. I think it's going to continue to exist in some way, shape, or form. Does it need to be changed? Probably.
Yeah.
But, they end up missing out on a lot of opportunity because we are naturally the caregivers.
Yeah. And so we're going to go in depth on those topics. And I know that's been a passion of yours as well. But there are a lot of topics it sounds like you want to talk about on the show. But before we jump into these topics, and in future weeks, we're going to provide some great tips and lists and strategies for our listeners to use. This is a financial show to help our listeners out there. But how do you, let's talk about you, where you're from, how you got here, your passion for finance and helping people with their finance.
Well, I was born in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Okay. My dad was a federal employee. For a brief time, my mom was also a federal employee. My dad got transplanted all over the country, setting up treatment programs for Vietnam vets.
Oh, wow.
To help treat what we now know as post-traumatic stress. It didn't have a diagnosis back then. When we got to Kansas City, my dad had enough credited years of service with the federal government that he retired and went into public service, well, into the private sector, actually. Sure. And Kansas City became my de facto home. Okay. I was really good at math and science when I was in school, and so everybody told me I needed to be an engineer. I had no, it's like, okay, I was 18, So my first trip through college was to be an engineer. But what I found out in engineering school is that I like people way too much to be sitting in front of just a computer or a draft board for the rest of my life. And I have very strong communication skills. They wanted me to be an engineer. I wanted to be a writer. Everybody told me I couldn't make any money being a writer. So I kind of kicked around a few different careers for a while. I've always loved to bake. So
writing, baking.
Yeah, very much a Renaissance person.
So how do we get to finance?
Well, when I had kids, I realized that the baking that I was doing, I had a lot of commercial clients and a lot of business offices. You can't wake up at 2:00 in the morning to make a batch of cinnamon rolls from scratch for a 7:30 a.m. breakfast and still be functional to chase your kid around at 3:00 in the afternoon.
I bet not.
No. So I actually had a friend that was in our life group at church, and he had gotten into the financial services industry. And he was looking for other people to add to the group. They were out of Pasadena, California, and worked primarily in the nonprofit sector with school districts and hospitals. So
with federal benefits, things like that, or
no, federal benefits came along later.
Okay.
Later on in the second trip through, like 403Bs.
Oh yeah,
and that part of the retirement sector. So I studied and got my life and health insurance license, and then got my Series 6 and my Series 63.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And actually worked for a broker for a while.
Okay.
And then that was around 2003, 2004. Did that for a little while. My family experienced a tragic loss in 2006. We had an infant son who only lived for 19 days.
Oh.
And I stepped outside of the industry at that time. I had no business managing anybody's money, but kept my life and health insurance license and actually got to work with one of the foremost HSA experts in the country.
Oh, wow.
Her name is Beverly. She lives in Eudora, Kansas, and she took me under her wing for a while. 2012, I let my life and health license lapse because of the Affordable Care Act and really didn't want to navigate those waters.
Sure.
Fast forward to 2014, my husband needed help running his back office because he was in the financial services industry.
Sure.
So I stepped in and started doing all of the back office stuff and really realized how much people needed good information.
Yeah.
And unbiased information. And somebody that wasn't going to pitch them a product because they had to sell this many by the end of the month, or their boss was telling them that they had to get this done by then. So, my husband had started working in the federal benefits arena and realized that I had a pretty good grasp of all of this because of what I'd grown up with my mom and dad. And my dad had actually gotten very bad advice when he retired. His banker talked him into taking a lump sum distribution, which means that my dad forfeited all of his benefits, including his health insurance.
Wow.
And my dad was a diabetic. So, health insurance was, I mean, literally his lifeblood.
Yeah.
So
that's too bad, because he could have gotten great health insurance.
He could have carried fabulous benefits with him for the rest of his life. And he was much more suited. He wanted to be in private practice and work for himself. And because he had gotten cheated out of those federal benefits and taking that insurance, he ended up having to work for other people sporadically so that he could qualify for health insurance, quit the job, COBRA, rinse and repeat until he finally married somebody who was much more conducive to working in the corporate world and carried the benefits for him then.
Sure.
But even then, the cost, all the money that he spent, when he died, he was on 25 different medications.
Wow. Yeah, and I can't even imagine. And so really, that must be why you're so passionate about federal benefits. And that's an area of specialty for you and your firm, right?
It is. It is one of the areas that we specialize in. I always tell the federal employees that come to our in-person events and to our webinars, even if you don't let us help you, it's important that whoever you find to help you understands how your federal benefits work.
A lot of financial advisors, and I've worked with a number over the years and know a number of financial advisors. A lot of them are great. They're independent fiduciaries. They're going to look out for your best interests when it comes to retirement planning, things like that, or maybe they specialize more in investing and growth. But the bottom line is most of them don't understand federal benefits or deal with them.
It takes a lot to understand it. There's a lot of moving parts to it.
It's really a specialized area.
It is. It is.
But there are huge mistakes that can be made, right?
There are. And
costly mistakes.
Well, and some of them are permanent. With some of them, you've only got 30 days after you retire to make any changes. So it's important that your retirement paperwork gets filled out correctly the first time.
Yep.
And it's equally as important that once you get that information back from your agency, that you review it to make sure that whoever took what you said or took what you put into the computer, because most of it's done online now,
right,
that they put it in accurately.
Yeah.
But I've had clients that before paperwork was submitted electronically that turned in their paperwork, called me about 30 days later, and she's like, well, when am I going to get this? When am I going to get that? And I'm like, haven't you gotten your vacation pay yet? And she's like, no. Well, then I need you to reach out and verify that you've actually been retired, because that's one of the first things that happens. Some agencies, their vacation pay comes on their last check. Some, it comes about 10 days later. But that was like the bellwether sign to know that the paperwork had been processed and that you were actually terminated.
Ah, wow.
That client ended up actually having to drive back down to the agency that she had retired from and give them the copies of the paperwork that she had fortunately made, because they told her they had no record of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is terrible. And you hear these horror stories all the time. But there are a lot of people that don't even realize what they're entitled to with their federal benefits, and that's like your dad getting that bad advice, your father. So I think federal benefits is going to be an area where we'll have at least one or two shows now and then that specialize in that area. But there are so many things. I mean, we touched on healthcare issues. We'll do shows on. I know long-term care is a big issue, and I'm sure you've helped your clients when you do financial planning and especially retirement income planning. You have to plan for these things, don't you?
We do. And there are some people that have long-term care insurance, and if they have a plan, that's great. But for a lot of people, long-term care is a one-trick pony. You know, it can only do that. And there are other ways for us to plan and prepare for your long-term care that if you my wish for all of my clients is that they just fall asleep one night and don't wake up the next morning.
Well, sure, but that's what everybody wants.
That's what everybody wants. It's not what everybody gets. But in the event that I get my wish, I don't want that money to have been wasted. I want it to go to a beneficiary. I want the spouse to still have access to it.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we're creating legacy with that.
Yep.
not necessarily lighting a match to a bunch of money.
Yeah. You don't want to do that. And there are costly mistakes that people make with their savings, their investments, their retirement plans, whether it's 401ks, 403bs, as you mentioned, IRAs, Roth IRAs. And for our listeners out there, I want to stress the point, Barb. I know you're going to focus on different areas each week. We'll do a show just about Roth IRAs and just about Roth conversions. And we'll do a show just about what to do with the 401k. And I know these are some of the areas you help people in. And there are so many areas. But as an independent financial advisor, you're really not beholden to any one big company. You're not trying to push specific products. You're just looking out for your client's best interest, right?
Absolutely. And the beauty of it is that as an independent fiduciary, I get to go to the open market and solve a problem for my client. I'm not selling them a product. We're finding what works best for the solution that is unique to them. And even though my office has a small staff at this point, I have about 5 or 6 employees besides myself. The beauty of it is I've got a team of about 300 people backing me up and helping me go to the open market and find what makes the most sense in each situation.
Yeah, that's really great. And the fact that you're only doing what's in your client's best interest, and everybody's situation is different, right? There's no cookie cutter approach that people can use for their financial plan.
Absolutely. I tell my clients I left all my cookie cutters at home today. We're going to work on exactly what you need for you.
Sure. Well, I think that's great. And, obviously you have experience in the financial industry and some unique experiences with your family. And that really lends a lot to how you help your clients and how passionate you are about it.
It really became a calling in my life when I started realizing just how much help people needed. And just there's so much information out on the internet right now. And there's so much inaccurate information out on the internet right now that if you're not an expert, if you're not doing this day in, day out, you don't know how to identify what's real and what isn't. It's like I tell all of, when I go into a workshop and I'm training people, I'm like, look, I don't self-diagnose. I don't go to WebMD and plug in my symptoms because they're either going to tell me I'm dying tomorrow or they're going to tell me it's nothing to worry about.
Right.
Chances are it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But I'm not the expert.
Right.
Okay. That's why I go to a doctor.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Exactly.
Even though I probably could, I don't fix my own car.
Right. There you go.
I let the dealership do it.
Yep. Yeah, because you want expert advice and you want to know and have that confidence it's being taken care of properly. And everybody's situation is different, but you want that personal one-on-one. And so you like talking to your clients and you want to hear from our listeners as well, right?
We develop relationships with our clients. I tell everybody this isn't a transactional thing. We're not going to put this plan together and then I'm never going to see you again. We're not carving a financial plan in stone. It's a living, breathing document. Your circumstances change. If it's a couple, we're planning on you both living to a certain age. That can change at the drop of a hat.
Right. Yeah, it can. And so for our listeners out there today, Barb, how can they get a hold of you if they want to get a plan in place? Maybe they don't have a financial plan yet in place or a retirement income plan, or maybe they need a second opinion on where they're at.
I would love to visit with anybody who needs that help. You can always reach us by going to our website, which is Safe Harbor FPG for Financial Planning Group.com. Or you can reach us at our office. The telephone number is 913-553-6222. And if you go through that prompt and reach out to our appointment and scheduling line, a member of my team is going to either answer the phone right then and there or get back to you as soon as they can to set you up with a complimentary consultation. We'll take some basic information from you. We'll figure out if you're a good fit for us and if we're a good fit for you.
Right. And there is no cost and no obligation for that consultation. And
no.
that's important to note. And also, they can go to the show page for the podcast, which is anchoryourretirement.com. Again, that's anchoryourretirement.com. And before we go today, Barb, let our listeners know one more time what that phone number is where they can call in and schedule the complimentary consultation.
Sure, that's 913-553-6222.
All right. Well, thanks, Barb. And I'm looking forward to learning more from you each and every week here on Anchor Your Retirement. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement with our host, Barb Gulin.
Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Anchor Your Retirement. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound retirement plan. For more information, please contact Barb Gulin at Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group. Call 913-553-6222 or visit them online at anchoryourretirement.com.
Advisory services are offered through Safe Harbor Financial Planning Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Kansas. All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.